The third challenge that I would like to speak to, one that touches on all the others, both the two I've already described and many others I might have listed as well, and one that is, I think, very close to home for us and which many Canadians are deeply aware of, indeed more so than many people around the world, is the shocking decline in the quality of American democracy. This goes without saying is a big deal for us, and we have to be deeply, deeply vigilant and deeply cautious in terms of how we proceed, both in terms of our relationship with the United States, but also in terms of what the free fall of American democratic norms and institutions means for us on this side of the border and for the integrity of Canadian democratic institutions. For 80 years, Canada has been a proud founding member of the international order that the United States helped establish and lead at the end of the Second World War. That order is deeply imperfect, and yet I would suggest is in fact a monumental improvement over any international order that preceded it. The attainment of a higher standard of living, a global expansion of democracy, of human rights, of civil and political rights. These are tremendous achievements that were ushered into being and supported through very challenging geopolitical circumstances by the United States and Canada and our G7 partners and our NATO allies and newer post-Second World War democracies in the Asia Pacific like Japan and many others around the world. American leadership is a cornerstone of the world that I have always lived in, but I dare say that most people in this room have lived their entire lives in. And I don't think we fully understand what the world will look like without the relative stability provided by that leadership. It pains me greatly to say that we cannot rely upon that leadership. Not now, in this moment, with the current occupant of the Oval Office, but not in the future, when, dare I say, the fecklessness of the American voters have been revealed and their willingness to cast their vote in a free and fair election for a man who is overtly committed to undermining the United States Constitution and the democratic principles that it enshrines and the rule of law that it upholds. The American voter is not prepared to defend American democracy. These are difficult realities that we have to reckon with. And there are no easy solutions. It is just that simple. Nor, by virtue of our geography and our deep economic relationship and our deep political and cultural relationships, do we have the luxury of simply cutting ourselves off from the United States. That is also not available to us, however abstractly appealing it might be. And so, the challenging road for us is how to move forward as a country, in partnership with our friends and allies, working with the United States to the extent necessary to achieve the outcomes that are in the best interest of our country, while keeping at arm's length the overtly authoritarian and fascistic movement that has ascended to power in the United States. I don't mean to be melodramatic, and I will wrap this up in a moment, but I think it must be said, because we have to, for ourselves as well as for our American neighbors, who I think need to hear this more often, call it by its name. There are people being plucked off of the street by men in masks and unmarked vehicles who refuse to provide their names. That is fascism. There are American elected officials being assassinated in their homes, shot dead with their spouses by gunmen. That is fascism. There is a system of government that is premised on the separation of powers that has collapsed utterly under the weight of an autocratic and, let's be fair, deeply, deeply unhinged president. These are the realities of our time. The most powerful person in the world is the worst person on the planet. And we have to make our way through that reality to try to find something better. Doing that involves supporting our American friends and neighbors who understand what's happening and are trying to resist it, however belated some of those efforts may be. But from a Canadian perspective, it really does mean taking a hard look at our national interest and charting the path that we need to take as a country, as a society, and as a government to get there, and if you'll forgive me, to keep Canada strong. I will hold my comments there, though there's much more I could say. I feel like I'm already starting to spiral. I will spare you all of that. But I look forward to your questions. I thank you so much for being here. I thank you for taking an interest in our politics and in my work. And I am so excited to have the opportunity in September to continue to serve our community as your Member of Parliament, representing us, Vancouver Island, and the West Coast in Ottawa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.